My name is Ben Jackson. I'm the founder and brand director of a company called Capsicana Limited, and we are an up-and-coming Latin American food brand selling into UK retail. My first customer was a guy called Damien Caldwell, I think, and I sold him 10 packets of crushed chilies. So, like, one part of it's very heart-led, and another part of it's very research-led. I grew up being exposed to quite a lot of world food cuisine with my dad, and he always used to like cooking Mexican or Tex-Mex or Indian food. So I grew up on this kind of palette of all of these nice, unusual flavours, and so I had a real passion for it. And then I went to the States because he moved over there, and that was the first time I found all these super cool like Mexican chilies that were just mental. I mean, they were strange shapes and they're really interesting flavours. So I had this kind of like real passion for it. But then I noticed that there were some sort of trends emerging that I thought were really interesting. I was sort of collecting information, what I was seeing in shelves of a supermarket, or what I was seeing in the restaurant scene, or what I was seeing in terms of shows, and it kind of made me think there's an opportunity here to do something really cool that I actually really care about, because my previous job was dull, and I just sort of thought, well, I've got to do this. It would be a global business where we've sort of made some massive gains in our home market, but you've got to have a good solid base where you've kind of like, A, you've got revenue traction, and B, you've kind of like properly validated your proposition. Business development. Up until 6 months ago, I was running everything. Then I raised some money, recruited a team. There are other very, very critical elements of the business, but I'm not necessarily managing them on a day-to-day basis. And I kind of do the external stuff around business development and brand related. I knew from my previous job lots of people who either may have had, because I didn't raise a huge amount of money in the grand scheme of things, but I just needed something to kind of propel me forward. And I knew lots of people who I thought could either know people who might be interested or could potentially be interested themselves. And I think the biggest thing you need to do is the thing I did is I stopped doing everything else. The most critical thing at that time for the business was for me to raise funds so that I could implement a business plan that I had starting about 6 weeks in the future. It was the most critically important thing to do, so I stopped doing everything else. I literally didn't do anything else. I didn't try and get any new customers. It was like, that was my job. And you kind of have to look at it like that, and you have to relentlessly focus on it and talk to everybody at the same time. Don't sort of think, oh, well, I'll talk to these guys this week and then I'll talk to these other guys the next week. Talk to everybody at the same time and just keep going. When people say there's no way you're going to be able to do that, put the phone down and just phone the next person. I knew that when so in July the 4th last year, we listed into Waitrose. And at the time, I had an inkling, maybe I should raise some money now. And then I started looking at the orders that were coming through, and I thought, well, I probably can cash flow fund this. But then you have to, and I kind of knew that you had to invest in market development and just brand awareness and all these engagement activities. But I think I kind of underestimated just how much you have to do it to really, really get traction. And ultimately, if you're doing what I do, you need to really invest heavily in engagement. You need to really invest in your rate of sale. And so I suppose it was probably end of October that I thought, in order for me to get this thing to happen, that I can see, I have this vision that I have, the only way for that to actually happen is for me to get funding. And also, not just the funding. I was really lucky actually, because the guy that ended up investing is a guy that I've known for a long time. He wanted to join the team. Now, that was critical, just having extra, A, somebody else who could do things, and B, somebody to bounce ideas off. Well, I have this thing where I say to everybody in the team, there's like 3 directors now. I just want everybody to be really happy with what they do. And I said this to our office manager recently. Our office manager is this awesome person called Maria. We hired her on the basis of a conversation because she was just so passionate about, she was like basically walked into the office and said, I have to work for your company. We posted a thing on social media saying, we need help with social media. So she emails us and says, I have no experience in social media, but I have to come and work for your company. So she came along and, and we're like, wow, she's on fire. She's just so energized. We're exposing her to lots of different parts of the business. We want you to come into the office every single day feeling that you really own something and feeling really happy to be here because you can do this thing that you really love doing. I bought her a cake the other day as well. Massive, it was a huge cake. It was like the biggest red velvet cake you've ever seen. And I walked in with it and I said, Maria, I got you a cake. And she's like, what the hell do I want a cake for? And I'm like, for your family. And she's like, So she made me take half of it home because she said it was too big. But there you go, stupid stuff like that. I spent like 7 years being utterly broke, like utterly broke. At one point, I've got 3 children and a wife. At one point we were down to our last £50, like not even joking. We had £50 and we didn't have any money for food. It was a disaster. Sorry, am I allowed to swear? And my kiddies not getting to go on holiday. They've never been abroad. I've got an 11-year-old who's almost 12. They've never been abroad. They've never met their granddad because my dad lives in the States and for some unbeknown reason to me refuses to come to the UK. So there's those sorts of things. But you keep going.
Why do you keep going, Ben?
Because you have to.
Why do you have to, Ben?
Why do I have to? Because I just completely believe in, like I say this thing to my guys in the office and they all think I'm nuts, and I'm like, this company is already a massive company. We are already a global company. It's already happened. We just kind of haven't caught up on the timeline yet. And they like, you're literally on drugs. And I'm like, no, this is how I feel. That's genuinely how I feel. And there's, like if we stop doing everything we do, then it all disappears kind of thing. It's a completely foregone conclusion that this will happen. So whatever the obstacles are, you just keep pushing, and that's what else do you do. Because I sell a tangible thing in a very public space in a supermarket, whenever I have vision around it, it's very often drawn to the product set. I shut my eyes and I know what, I can see what it's going to be. I can see it on the shelves where we're not even on the shelf. So that's always been a big part of my when I visualise it, that's always been a big part of it, is actually what's physically available on, or, where we sell our products, where customers interface with us most frequently is on the shelf. I was in my kitchen. It was really funny. January is the worst part of the year for my business. I kind of learned after the first January that basically trying to sell stuff in January is a complete waste of time. But because I'm like just a phone guy, I like to phone people up or go and knock on the doors and try and generate business. I'd spent over a month phoning people to develop new accounts, and also to phone existing stockists to say, hi, do you need more stuff? And literally every single phone call I made, and I would sit at my desk and phone 8 hours a day, every single phone call was a no. And I heard no like 1,000 times over every single day for like 25 days straight. And it kind of really got to me. And I was standing in the kitchen and I said to my other half, you know what, hon, I think I might stop doing this and become a cleaner. She said, what on earth are you talking about? And I said, well, I think I might be a cleaner because then I won't have to phone people up all the time. And then I kind of like finished doing the washing up, and I had the moment of perspective. I think I do this quite a lot. If I'm freaking out about something, I really pull back from the issue at hand, and I try and like really bring some perspective to it as quickly as possible. And my perspective moment was, well, I'll probably feel all right tomorrow. So, and then the next day I felt a bit better. Failure. Well, I'm afraid of forces around my thing proving that it wasn't a good idea, and that I was bad judgment around ever thinking this thing could ever be big. Like the incident around me thinking I should be a cleaner, that was because I was just feeling that at the time I wasn't proximate enough to my vision. At that time I was just selling pre-packed fried and smoked chilies, which ultimately wasn't what I started to do. I started doing that because I didn't have enough money to buy a flipping manufacturing facility and start making sauces at scale, and I didn't have any experience in retail. I didn't have any experience in product development, any experience in the food industry at all. All I was good at was like phoning people up and trying to get them to do things. I was feeling that, I was feeling frustrated because I was selling a product set that wasn't getting enough traction, and I knew that I needed to do these other products that would have a lot of traction, but I didn't know how to get there. That was the frustration. But I've never doubted that the thing will not flourish. Do I believe in? No, well, kind of. I kind of believe in willing stuff to happen, and that's happened a lot, where I've just really willed something to happen and it's happened. I don't know whether it's like anything cosmic or whatever, but I think that, well, if you're willing something to happen, it's very present in your mind, it's at top of mind, and then you spend more time thinking about it, and you spend more time actioning things to do with it, and then from a probability point of view, it's more likely to occur. There must be an element of good fortune. It's good fortune, it's not luck. I have a real problem with the word luck. Like playing the lottery is luck. learning how to play really good poker. There's an element of good fortune in terms of the cards you get, but it's about knowing how to play the cards, so it's skill. And I don't like it when people use words that imply there's a lack of skill. I'm not sure. I like working hard. I always find it really difficult when I have a commercial win. I am never satisfied with what I've achieved, even though I'll be going towards like a really big retail listing that I have ultimate faith that it will happen, but at the same time it kind of feels like an insurmountable, you know, it's just such a big thing to do. And there's always an element of, is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen in a year or whatever? Or is it going to happen at all? And then literally as soon as I've achieved it, I'm like, well, that's, you know, whatever. So I need to, in order to keep me happy, I need to continuously have more growth opportunities. Otherwise I kind of like end up with this real kind of like post, like everybody is like, yay, you should be really happy. And I just feel flat. I think you've got to kind of look for the things that give you pleasure, you know, and try and focus on those things, you know, and yeah, it's not always straightforward. I go and drink beer. You know, it's good to be, okay, so adrenaline obviously associated with anticipation and activity and all the rest of it. I try to do fallow things. I work really hard, but I try to sort of build in kind of like, I'll take the dogs out for a walk because I have moments of inactivity, you know, really forced inactivity, or I'll just like lie on the floor in the garden, deliberately zone out. I really want a deprivation tank. I can just lock myself in for 3 hours, just float in water or whatever the hell, something like that. I'm not really that interested in conventional, not wisdom. Like if someone gives me advice and I don't agree with it, I challenge everybody's thinking, not in a horrible way. But if, you know, I'm very headstrong. I'm not headstrong in a rude way, but I'm very focused on what I believe to be the truth. That we have 50% market share. I'm going to go and meet up with a really good friend of mine after this interview, who I haven't seen for ages, her and her husband, who's a lovely guy, and we're going to have some drinks and some dinner, and we're going to talk about advertising strategy.